Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Hello, everyone. Today we are here to go through our first lesson, which will be about post-World War II theater in America. So, right after World War II, American theater and plays began to surge. In this fourth quarter, we are going to talk and read about two plays in particular. So today I'm just going to give you some notes through my screen. So if you need something to take the notes on, like a pen and paper or a document on your computer, I would get them out now, as I'm going to guide you through some background information on both of these very famous and very important plays. So as we get started here, okay, you should be seeing my screen, which shows a slideshow on American theater post-World War II. So you may remember last quarter we discussed Great Gatsby and the Roaring Twenties and how that sort of all ended with the Great Depression, which lasted about 9 years, okay? And then the United States economically was taken out of that Great Depression following our jumping into World War II in 1942 after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in December. We got into the war, and of course, all that information that Mr. Burgle shares with you is relevant. After all that, okay, we're sort of jumping into the literature that started peaking at that time, which is theater. Okay, so this slide kind of elaborates on what I just said a little bit. Most famously, there are a handful, 3 most notable American playwrights that really were famous: Arthur Miller, Eugene O'Neill, and Tennessee Williams. We're going to read 2 of the 3 of these. Arthur Miller wrote Death of a Salesman, amongst many others. And Tennessee Williams wrote A Streetcar Named Desire, among as well many others. Okay, many argue that this is the peak of American theater. Even if you look now, if you look at Broadway and all of the awards that come with Broadway plays, this period is where a lot of the repeats and reproductions are from this time period. I'll just give you a second to write that. So this slide is about Tennessee Williams biographically. He was born in Mississippi, struggled through his career until he wrote The Glass Menagerie, which we're not reading, we're reading Streetcar. He attempted many relationships with women, became outwardly homosexual in the late 1930s, which was a big deal at the time. And his most famous plays were The Glass Menagerie, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and the one we are going to talk about, A Streetcar Named Desire. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Streetcar here. A really wonderful play. In 1947, he published it, and then that same year, it opened on Broadway, starring Marlon Brando, and it was received to a ton of success. Okay, so if you don't know Marlon Brando, look him up. He's sort of the heartthrob of the 40s and 50s. And he acts wonderfully in this play and in this film, which it eventually became in 1951. If you see on your screen, you'll see it won a Pulitzer Prize in 48. And then in 51, They took that Broadway production, all of the stars except for one, Vivian Leigh, was added as Blanche. And you might have seen commercials or memes or something where people yell, "Stella, Stella." And this is a famous line from Streetcar. Depicts life in New Orleans and a sort of contrast between urban and rural American values. And it's really wonderful. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think we watch it on Netflix, but I'll have to double check. There's Marlon Brando showing off the guns. Here's Arthur Miller. We are going to read his play Death of a Salesman. So he's arguably the most famous of all American playwrights, possibly because he married Marilyn Monroe for a brief period of time. But he's famous for a number of plays, including All My Sons, A View from the Bridge, The Crucible, which is the depiction of Puritan America's sort of scare regarding witchcraft in early America, and then Death of a Salesman, of course. He's born in Harlem, went on to be an English major, woo woo, at University of Michigan, boo. All My Sons is in 1947, won a Tony Award, which is for Broadway productions, or plays rather, stage productions. Death of a Salesman was written over the course of 6 weeks, which is frightening, in 1948 and premiered in February 1949. He was accused of being a communist during what is known as the Red Scare in the 1950s. And in response to that sort of feverish fear of communism, he wrote The Crucible, which was sort of to remind Americans symbolically of our fear of different ideologies through recalling this historical moment of the Salem witch trials in early Puritan America. But that's a famous film, sort of similar to the vibes of Scarlet Letter, very similar historical time period. But we are going to read Death of a Salesman. There's Arthur Miller, Sweet Frames. Okay, Death of a Salesman. It premiered in 1949, and it was huge from the get-go. It lasted 742 performances. It's been revived 4 times, winning Best Revival 3 of those 4 times. You don't need to know the numbers on this. You just need to know that it was good and very successful. I mean, out of 4 revivals, 3 of them were awarded Best Revival. I did fortunately get to see one of those award-winning revivals featuring the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman, which was just, a memory of my life. It was so good. It depicts this down on his luck guy, Willy Loman, who is a salesman. And it sort of depicts like economic and class struggle and aging and how those kind of go hand in hand. Here's the cover on the left. Sort of depicts the downtrodden Willy Loman carrying his bags. And on the right side, the other side of Willy Loman, which is a proud father to his son, Biff and Happy. Yes, those are their names. So that concludes our notes on the plays of post-World War II America. Is obviously very short. I was really just focusing on those 2 mostly. Streetcar Named Desire and Death of a Salesman. We are going to begin this week working on Streetcar Named Desire. I do think you'll really like it. I plead you to check your streaming applications, whether you have Hulu or Netflix or whatever, Amazon, to see if it's available on there. Hopefully one day I can do a live stream of the film on here, or find some version of it for you. If you have trouble finding access to this film, please reach out to me independently. You should have my email address in the course syllabus for this remote learning experience. And I hope you all are doing well. Please, of course, leave a comment, a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. And I hope you guys are doing well. Take care.